Jordan Peterson is the most famous psychologist in the world, and he had a lot to say, it turns out, about what I do, which I'm a pickup coach. I wouldn't quite call myself a pickup artist, but I'm in that general field. And there's a video of him titled Jordan Peterson on Why Pickup Artists Are Psychotic. So I just wanted to watch this video. I'm curious what his perspective is. I'm very open-minded to it, but I'm also going to ruthlessly criticize it and see if there's any holes in his thinking that might have led him to this conclusion. Or, you know, maybe he's right, and in general, pickup artists are psychotic. Let's find out.
There's two ways to use language. Like, let's say I'm going to pick up a girl in a bar, all right? So I have a goal in mind, and the goal is sort of, the girl's irrelevant to the goal insofar as she could be another girl. So it's a psychopathic goal in some ways. Because really, because the individual doesn't matter. It is. I'm serious about that.
Okay, so here's one of my biggest criticisms in the way Jordan Peterson thinks. And I mean, he's a very smart guy, but I think a lot of he has a lot of biased thinking, and basically he starts with leading conclusions. He starts with something that already is making assumptions and then builds on that argument. But it's a false premise that is very easy for him to defend because he created a false premise. So in this case, he's saying, like, picking up a girl is a psychopathic goal. It doesn't matter whether she's one girl or another girl. You're going to a bar and you're just picking up any girl. There's so many assumptions baked into that statement. You could, right, have that mentality. You could be like, I'm going to pick up a girl and I just want to get laid. Any girl will do. But does that have to be the mentality? If you're, like, interested in meeting women, does it have to be the mentality that it's just any girl will do, I just want to get laid? No, I mean, you could have the mentality that you're looking for a long-term relationship and you have certain qualities you're looking for. You want a girl with, like, similar political views, who has a certain career path, and that's what you're going to seek. Right, you want to pick up girls at a bar, but you're looking for a very particular type of girl, so you're sifting through, meeting different people, looking for someone who has those qualities. And he's making what I would consider a disingenuous argument by starting with the premise that you have the psychopathic goal of just wanting anyone who keeps the bed warm, because that's what he's saying here. Does that have to be the case, though? Is that the only way to go about meeting people at a bar? No, I would say definitely not.
So what I'm going to do, say if I'm a pickup artist, I follow these pickup artists online, because I'm so curious about their use of psychology. And all they ever do is come up with, it's like a whole horde of men talking about how to deceive and manipulate women. It's extraordinarily interesting and extremely psychopathic. And also it's very, 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 very unsophisticated and unskilled. Because what the guys are, they're lumps, basically. And what they're trying to do is to acquire the veneer of sophistication. And that's psychopathic. Anyways, that's my little spiel on pickup artists. But they're very interesting. So what they're doing is teaching their followers instrumental language. So if you want to sleep with a girl, here's how to do it. Here's how to manipulate her, you know. They have a bunch of tricks like wear an expensive watch and dress up. And also, don't just dress up, so dress up rich, roughly speaking, but also add something peculiar to your wardrobe, like something that really stands out as somewhat odd. They call that peacocking. So that the girl can see that not only are you rich and successful, but you've got that little bit of individuality that sets you apart from all the other rich and successful guys, you know. And so that's like an Osiris-Horus combination, basically. But it's all bullshit, because the guys aren't like that. So it's and then they have all these little routines they use that are verbal routines, and they have these guys they go to the bar with to help them with their little routines, and it's like, it's completely, what are they doing? They're using language instrumentally. They have a goal in mind, which is their goal, and they know that what the goal is, and they know that the goal is right insofar as they're pursuing the goal, and then they're willing to say anything to obtain that goal. Now you think, well, I think that's the instrumental use of language. What do you do if you're not using instrumental language? That's interesting. What you do is you try to communicate about the situation and your response to the situation, whatever it is, as clearly and accurately and articulately as you possibly can, all the time, and see what happens. That's a whole different thing. I'm going to conduct my relationship with person X in the most truthful possible manner, and I'm going to see what happens. And then I'm also going to assume that whatever happens is the best thing that could have happened. Because, like, how the hell do you know if it's the best thing that could have happened? Maybe the person's all offended and irritated. I've seen this with my clients a lot, so especially with the agreeable ones, because they're all bent out of shape with resentment because they're not saying something, and so, and because they're not saying something, they're getting shepherded into some situation they don't want to be in. Like maybe they have to go live with someone they don't want to live with, and they don't want to, express themselves because that'll hurt someone's feelings. It's like, so.
He's making a very good point here, which is funny though, because his point is very strongly in alignment with more recent pickup teachers. If you look at Mark Manson, his book Models Attract Women Through Honesty, or you look at the stuff that RSD started putting out in the 2010s, that is exactly the same as what he's saying. I mean, Models is all about being assertive and saying what you mean, even if it might be offensive, because you end up getting roped into these very toxic relationships if you're unable to do that. And that the ability to just say what you want, say it clearly and truthfully, is attractive, right? That shows a level of status, and it's vulnerable, and that is very appealing to women, and I would say, either way, right? That's attractive to anyone. And so what he's criticizing is, he's talking about peacocking, so it's like the mystery method, old school pickup stuff. I don't know when this video was recorded. It was put out recently, so I think he started recording his lectures like in 2015, 2016, so it's not that long ago. And he's researching the old school, the original pickup stuff, like mystery, and finds it entertaining, and it does have a lot of what he's saying is kind of accurate, because there is this undertone of the goal is to get laid. As long as the girl's hot, that's satisfactory, and do whatever you can to convince the girl to want to sleep with you. But the industry or the community has changed a lot since then, where there was a second wave where it completely changed to being a lot more about just communicating in a way that is confident, but also honest, saying what you want, being able to put that out there, and that not being only attractive, but also leading to healthier relationships. And ditching, a lot of pickup coaches don't teach any lines whatsoever. They don't teach lines or gimmicks or anything. They're just like, go state your intentions in a genuine way, and some girls are going to resonate, you're going to have natural chemistry with, and those are the girls that you would want anyway. If you're manipulating girls by trying to find a way to trick them into liking you, well, then you're going to end up attracting women that you don't have a good connection with anyway, and that you won't get along with. So what's the point? So you might as well instead go about it, communicate authentically as you can, and then when you find someone who you have a lot in common with, or you have good chemistry, then you're going to have something that's like a really good connection anyway. You might not get as high of a hit rate, because some girls are going to reject that because they're just not going to get along with you, whereas if you are a chameleon, then you can find a way to get along with anyone, but those connections aren't going to be nearly as strong anyway. And so that's where the whole pickup community has evolved towards, and without knowing it, he's actually agreeing with the overall philosophy. He's saying a very similar philosophy to what modern pickup coaches, not all of them, I mean, there's still some that are more like the old school ones, but overall, the direction it's headed, he's saying the same shit.
We talk about that in a bunch, and we figure out how you could say what you actually think. And usually what happens is, they say it, they get in a whole bunch of trouble, and then 2 days later the problem goes away. So, they're afraid.
That's also really good advice that I would think about if you're doing that in your own relationships, not only with women, but also with your family, with friends. I've noticed the same thing, that if you're unable to when you have a problem or a concern and you bottle it up, makes things get far worse. The tension builds to unnecessary levels, but you put it out there, you communicate it without being like aggressive, but you communicate it and you put it out there, and then things tend to resolve and you tend to have way healthier relationships.
To say what they're actually using silence instrumentally, basically, because their idea is, I don't want to fight with you. Well, so how do I not fight with you? I don't say anything that will upset you. It's like, will upset you when, exactly? Like if you if you're an intimate partner with someone and you see them doing something stupid repeatedly that is going to lead them into a pit in like a month or 2 months or a year or 5 years, you don't get to say, well, I'm not going to fight with you just because that'll be trouble, because sooner or later they're going to fall in a pit, and that's going to be trouble too. So you're not doing them any damn favors. You're just forestalling the catastrophe into the future. It's not helpful. Where instead you could say, well, here's how it looks to me, and this is, how it looks. It looks to me like this is where this is going, and you probably don't want to go there, and even if you do, I'm not going to aid and abet it. And then they're going to get all upset, and they're going to tell you that you're interfering, and that you're mean, and that you're cruel, and that you can only see the bad in things. And if you withstand all that, then they're going to get really angry and stomp out, and if you can withstand that, then they're going to cry and tell you you're, a son of a bitch and mean, and that they never want to talk to you again. And then they'll go home and think about it, and a week later they'll come back and say, I never want to see you again. Probably not. Or they'll say, geez, I thought about that, and what you said made sense, and I'm going to try to do something about it. So, but you have to decide to begin with whether or not you're willing to risk the consequences of the truth. And that doesn't mean you get to use the truth as a weapon. I mean, that's not truthful. You can use the truth as a weapon. If you see someone who's perhaps not as attractive as they could be, you could say, you're rather ugly, which in some sense is the truth. It's a statement about, but it's not the truth at all, because for it to be the truth, it has to be embedded. What it really has to be is embedded in the Osiris-Horus pyramid. What?
This is where he's losing me. I was strongly agreeing with what he was saying there for a while. Then he goes into the mythology stuff, and then I start to think his perception of how reality works is he's like a dog chasing his own tail is the way he's philosophizing here. It's not the truth because he's just creating all these layers. I'd make it a lot simpler. Like if you're using the truth to hurt someone, if you're using something truthful to hurtful, and that's your intention, then it's going to be unhealthy, right? If your intention is to be hurtful, then it's going to create an unhealthy situation. But if your intention is to solve a problem or to do something positive, right, make the relationship better, then it's going to have a good situation. You don't have to get on all this mythology stuff. I've seen some of his lectures about his philosophy on truth, and he's just running laps around reality basically, because for whatever reason he has a strong desire to believe in this fundamental truth, that mythology has fundamental truths embedded in them, and they're a source of that because that has something to do with his religious beliefs or something like that. But it makes absolutely no sense to me, to be completely honest.
The utterance has to serve the entire function of that integrated unit. It has to serve tradition, it has to serve enlightenment, it has to serve vision, and if it isn't doing any of those things, it's not the truth, even if it...
I don't think so. I mean, it's truth. It can be ugly, right? The truth can be ugly. Why can't the truth be ugly? It doesn't, I don't think there's anything intrinsic about truth that it has to be good. I think that's the problem, because truth is a value there's a lot of reasons to hold that value. And so he's looking for ways to making it always the correct value to hold, is what I think he's doing. But truth, it's kind of like in Interstellar. If you remember the robot, TARS, the robot in Interstellar, they ask, what's your truth setting? How truthful are you? And it says, I think 80 or 90%. And because if it said 100%, it would be you would never want to be around it. It would just ruin your day. It would demotivate you, right? And I think that's the same with truth. Truth isn't always the right value. Truth isn't always the best answer. And to have to redefine truth as a way of making that work, I think, is a bit short-sighted, right? It's a short-sighted way to look at truth. You're trying to make truth fit your narrative. This is no longer about pickup. I mean, he's a very lateral thinker. He goes on tangents. I think it's interesting, but his argument, I don't think it actually works or makes sense.
The truth in this local tiny slice, I just told you the truth. It's like, no, you didn't. You took a little fragment of what could be interpreted to be the truth, and you turned it into a bat, and then you hit me with the bat, and then you defended yourself by a false argument that's claiming that when you use the truth in a local manner like that, you're actually moral. That's right. That's not true. It's incredibly deceptive because, you know, the best way to deceive someone is to sort of tell them the truth. And then you not only, you can really get the person then, because not only are you innocent because you told the truth, they're even more guilty because they're too weak to handle the truth. So, man, you can really wallop someone with that. So,
Okay, so yeah, overall, his criticism of pickup. Look, there's some parts they're very accurate about it. Some parts I strongly agree with. Some parts I strongly disagree with. I hope this video was interesting to you to see my take on that and see me pick apart his arguments the way I did. And if you like this video, you want to see more videos like this, you recommend who do you want me to break down in the future? Like, is there a clip of any public figure talking about dating or pickup or any of those kinds of things that you'd like to see me pick apart, analyze, break down? And if you enjoyed this video, just make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button, because if you don't hit the bell button, you will not be notified when I release a new video.